Right now we're going to turn our attention back to high school sports and welcome in Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media. Good morning, Kevin.
Hey, good morning, Sully.
How's it going, man?
It's going okay. You know, it's a little early still, but we're used to it.
Early. It's 9:30, man. Come on.
Well, when you don't see, you're tackling all the games all night, and you come back and
you're probably up to about 2 a.m, right?
Exactly. But that's okay.
Hey, before we get going, what's your take on Gritty?
At first,
thumbs up or thumbs down?
You know, I think it's. I'm going to reserve judgment. I think it's something that is going to play itself out. I just don't think the Flyers needed a mascot. But on the flip side, if they were looking for some preseason PR to kind of get Phillies off to get the fans off the Phillies and maybe taking a step off the Eagles a little bit, I think they accomplished their mission.
I'm all in with Gritty, man. I'm down with it. It's so crazy. It's kind of funny. I like it.
It's different. We'll see how it goes.
It may end up as a 30 for 30 in about 10 years of one of those lost mascots. Mascots that were only around for a year.
Change. Some people are difficult to deal with change. So we'll see what happens. But it doesn't bother me one way or another, to be honest with you.
Kevin, break up the Tartans, man. What's going on in Highland?
Hey, going into that game last night, I really thought Highland had a very good chance of winning that game, and Timber Creek is still a very good football team, but they're not. I don't think they're not at the level they have been at the last 2 or 3 years. Highland has obviously gotten itself a lot better, and for a rivalry that last night only was the third game. It was highly entertaining. They went back and forth. Some key turnovers at certain times. But for Highland to go into Timber Creek and win that game was a major statement that, and like I had written about today on NJ.com and like a lot of the kids had said, that Highland has been they're the little brother of Timber Creek, even though they've been around a lot longer. And I think there's a level of, I don't know exactly what the word would be, but there's a level that, rivalry games between district schools, it's not that the kids hate each other, but there's a level of disrespect. So to a degree, I think, between the two teams, just in talking to the Highland kids after the game, and they felt as though they have not been given the respect that maybe they deserve by their sister school, at least in football. And they came out last night and they did what they had to do to win the game. And I think Timber Creek has been a winner for a long time in its brief history, whereas Highland has struggled. I think they've only had one winning season since like 1991, whereas Timber Creek has won itself 4 championships, played in half a dozen championship games. So I think last night was pretty big for Highland. It was a much bigger game for Highland than it was for Timber Creek, and the Tartans went out and got the job done.
Well, it's nice to see a team that talks about, hey, this is a big game for us, we need to go out and win it, and then actually go out and do it. I mean, you hear that all the time in high school. This is a defining game for us. We need to win this game to prove something, and then they go out and get blown out by 3-4 touchdowns. But kudos to Highland for saying, hey, this is a big game on our schedule, and we're going to go out and prove something, and then go out and do it.
I think to a degree, Highland didn't talk very much about the game. I think once they got on the field and then emotions got going and the game got going, it probably started to generate a little bit. But going into the game, I think it was pretty quiet as far as, Highland talking about what they could do. And, when talking to Brian Cooey after the game, he scored a touchdown because their senior quarterback. He scored a touchdown. He kicks the game-winning field goal with about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They kind of they kind of kept it quiet all week. They heard what was going on. That they heard the talking back and from the other side, from what they're telling me, and they wanted to let their play on the field demonstrate that they should be in the conversation, and they were, and Highland is a team to watch out for. They're not, if people weren't watching Highland before last night, certainly beating Timber Creek has now put them on everyone's radar. And they're a very good football team. They're a tough football team. Conditions last night were not great. The field was not really in great shape. It was soft all over the place, and both teams battled, and both teams had opportunities, and Highland just came out, one opportunity better.
Talking with Kevin Minnick of NJ Advanced Media. Check out all his stuff on NJ.com. And Kevin, another team I wanted to touch on is Willingboro. Real nice win over Cinnaminson, 14-12 last night. And that's a team that kind of gets overlooked a little bit when we talk about South Jersey Group 2. We're always talking about West Deptford and Cedar Creek. And I think this team has a little bit of a chip on its shoulder. They feel like they probably should have beaten Cedar Creek in one of those last 2 years, and just some playoff frustration the last couple of years, and could be a team to watch out for.
Yeah, they are a team to watch out for, and that's a big win for them to beat Cinnaminson. The game got switched. I believe it was supposed to be at Willingboro for their homecoming. I can only guess the field wasn't playable, so they shift over to Morristown. They start at 7:30. Some factors, I guess, kind of going against them a little bit, but to win that game, Willingboro was a team that is probably the smallest playing against Group 3s and Group 4s, which generally isn't the case in the West Jersey Football League schedule, the way it's set up. But for some reason, Willingboro's kind of got himself games against bigger teams this season. And, that's only going to help them as they make a little bit of a run. They make their run towards the postseason. And, Willingboro's another program, has athletes, has some kids that, can put it together. So, like I said, that's a big win for them, and hope, maybe that catapults them to bigger and brighter things.
And Kevin, nice kind of bounce back win for Shawnee, 42-21 over Morristown. What do you make of this squad?
We're still searching. The schedule has a little bit to do with it, but I think we're still searching for some consistency out of Shawnee, and they're going to have a big game coming up, I believe, in 2 weeks against Union City, a team from North Jersey that's very, very good. I'm not sure whether I think that's in 2 weeks. But, last night, Joe Dalsey, he has a hand in all 6 touchdowns, rushes for 4 of them, throws 2 touchdown passes. The kid's a very good football player, and, obviously the leader of that team. And, I guess people aren't used to seeing a Shawnee team be 1-2, 2-2. They're used to seeing the Shawnees being the 3-1s, the 4-0s. So, maybe last night helps them out. Obviously, will help them out against a Morristown team that is winless. And I thought I had higher expectations for the Morristown team than what I guess they've shown so far. But obviously, a big win for Shawnee to kind of get back on track after losing, and hopefully that catapults them much like everyone else. Teams that have people have had such high expectations for that maybe haven't reached them, that helps them get back on track as well.
Kevin, got to give credit where credit's due. One of your colleagues, Matthew Stanmeyer, really good story this week on Nick Cargman over at Woodrow Wilson. What was your impression of that story? I mean, I know it's a little bit of a difficult situation. There's some hard feelings there at Pittman, where he transferred from, but seems to be making a great impression over there at Woodrow Wilson. Not an easy thing, to be basically one of the only white kids at an all-black school, and in this day and age with so much racial tension, it seems like a really cool story about how he's kind of ingratiated himself into that program, and I just thought it was a really good story, really great read.
Yeah, I talked to Matt about that story a couple weeks ago, and kind of really knew what he was looking for, and he does a really great job of what we call the investigative type pieces, more than just a feature on a kid on a Friday night. He digs around, he does his homework, he asks the tough questions, and for those who haven't read it, I highly suggest that they do. There's people out there's many opinions out there on that particular situation. Not only like you said on the racial side of things, but on the side of things that here's a kid who transferred from Pittman High School to Woodrow Wilson. Why exactly did he do that? And was that, I think people are going to question whether that was on the up and up and what the purpose was. But I think it's a good read. I was somewhat surprised in the early goings of writing the story and doing his work that people basically were as open as they were. To be quite honest with you, I didn't think that certain things would be talked about and said and known to be on the record. I personally didn't think that was going to happen, but it was, and Matt did an outstanding job of laying it all out, explaining the situation, and not just making it. I want to say it's certainly not a one-sided story. It's a story that, you said, and I said, it dives into a number of different angles, and it's really, like you said, it's a good read. People should sit down and look at it. Nick had another monster game last night. He threw for over 400 yards, 6 more touchdowns. Woodrow Wilson, this particular Woodrow Wilson team is built around him and the offensive weapons that are his receivers. So, if he continues along this pace, he's going to shatter Devin Leary's single-season record for passing yards and touchdowns. And and to be honest with you, Devin, when he put up those numbers, there was, I believe it was over 3,000, close to 3,400 yards and 40-some touchdowns. Devin had an outstanding year. It was a great junior season for him, led to him being the state player of the year. I think Nick Cargman's going to absolutely obliterate those records. Everything seems to be okay, at least, what we're being told, what you're reading about. It just makes for an interesting story. And flat out, the kid's good. The kid can throw the football. And, he's, like I said, he's got some weapons, and they're a team on a mission. They made it to the South Jersey Group 3 final last year, lost to Delsea by a point in a game that they probably should have won. So I think, everything is kind of falling into place for them. And, like I said, a team on a mission, and definitely well worth the read.
Well, Kevin, I've never met Matt in person, but definitely pass along my kudos. I'm a little bit jealous that he wrote such a good story. I wish I had written it, but he's much more talented than I am, for sure.
So, I've always told people, people come up to us and they appreciate what we do, and they thank us for what we do and everything. I've never, from a personal perspective, I've never thought that I was the greatest writer in the world. I thought that the way I went about my business and did my job, people appreciated. Matt Stanmeyer is like that next level, and you need people like that. You need the investigative guys, and that's what local journalism really is all about. And that's what people, when the newspapers are dying and we're all going to digital and all, this is why people need to support local journalism, because you're not going to find things like this any other place except for the outlets that see the importance of it, value the importance of it, and know that when you get things out there like that, people talk about it. And to start conversations and to make sure that, these types of stories are told is just so important, in this day and age of local journalism. So, like I said, Matt Stanmeyer is obviously a notch above.
Well, I'm going to have you put him in touch with me, because I want to get him on the radio show maybe next week to kind of do a follow-up and talk about more of his work.
I will put him in touch with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it as always. And have fun today. I'm sure you're going to be out. Are you going to be out at St. Joe's, or?
No, I'm not going to St. Joe today. I'm going to hit another small game. We're going to go see what Woodbury does today this morning, just to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Nice, the herd.
Hit some teams that you don't normally get to see during the course of a season. So we're actually on our way over there now. So 10:30 game. We got the first one of the day. So we'll see what happens.
Great stuff, Kevin. We got to get to your boy Mark Tribble, so we'll let you go. Thanks, bud.
All right. Thanks again.